Hi there and welcome to this short video about how to arrange flowers into a vase. So I've got a supermarket bunch of flowers here that I've just purchased. So they're nicely wrapped already. They've got a nice pattern on the cellophane there. They look lovely in a round shape, and their stems are nicely stripped for you, so there's no foliage at the bottom. But we're just going to make sure that the stems are nicely spiralled and they're ready to put into our vase to look at their best. So I've got two vases here. You won't be able to see them properly, so I'll lift them up for you. Okay, one's got a slightly wider neck and the other one is slightly thinner. So it's up to you. You've got two different choices and I'll show you what they look like in each vase. I'm going to take the flowers out of the cellophane. And you'll see what I'm looking at here. What you want to do first is check through the flowers. So some might be slightly damaged, others might need some foliage taking off before you put them in the vase. And then you'll quite often find that you've got a piece of foliage in there as well, which is great, and it helps to bulk out the design in the vase. So I'm just going to check through, see what I've got here. Okay. So what I'm going to do first of all is just make sure that they're nicely conditioned, and I'll show you how I do that. So I gently remove the lower foliage if needed. What I always do is measure it against the vase, so have I stripped down enough foliage so that it's not going to make contact with the water. Do the same with this one. These are chrysanthemums, so they're really long lasting. They're such a trusty flower and they've got a nice scent as well. So a couple of the different varieties of chrysanthemum in this bouquet. You'll find that some of the supermarkets do like to mix the different textures and colours. It looks really nice together. The foliage, this one has got quite a wonky stem, so maybe we'll take that thick part of the stem off. I'm just using Floristry scissors. They've got a nice point to them, so they get round the stem quite nicely. So I'll just remove that, so I've got the stems exactly how I want them for the vase. So any changes you need to make, do that now as part of your conditioning. And this stem again is completely different, so I could use this long piece as a separate placement, so I could just remove that with my scissors. Same with this one. A couple of lower stems to be removed, lower offcuts really. Okay. And lastly, I've got my lovely gerbera. So this is a pink gerbera called Kimsey. Okay, so that's a lovely one. They might need a bit of strength and stability, that their stems may become a bit weak. I like to put the gerbera in the centre of the bouquet for that reason, so it's supported by these more sturdy stems. Okay, so once you've got them all prepared, let's begin to use a technique called spiralling. So I spiral all my stems that I put into vases, and the reason for this is the stems look nice and tidy at the bottom of the vase, so we've got no foliage that may cause bacteria in the water, nice clean stem, and I'll begin to spiral them so they look lovely and neat lower down in the vase. So I'm starting off with my foliage. You may find that the foliage is already in the centre of the bouquet, and the reason for this is it helps to bulk out and separate the flower stems within the design. So I've got 3 stems to begin with, and they're held in my hand nicely. What I can do is just tuck them in between that V part of my hand, and they'll hold nicely. What I want to do is make sure I'm covering this part of the design first that's facing me, okay? So we've got some flowers that I'm looking at that I can see a shape starting to form. So as I said, we need to use the gerbera now to put into the centre of the design. So it's got a focal point, so you want to look at that flower. It's got quite a presence. So we want that in the middle of the design to keep the attention right in the middle there. I'm adding my 3rd or 4th stem now of the chrysanthemums, and as you can see, my stems have started to spiral. They're making this round shape. I'm going in one direction with my stems, and they're going at a slight angle. So if you want to just practice, just look at the stems. Don't worry too much about what's happening on top. Just keep concentrating on what these lower stems are doing. Are they spiraling? Is one going one completely wrong direction? So keep an eye on that. So I just need to add one more stem into this section before I begin to turn. And you'll notice that I will tweak the bouquet as I go. So now I'm ready to turn. The reason I'm ready to turn is because I've got all this completely covered, whereas what you can probably see is not very much flower at this stage. So I'm going to turn using my other hand to help me. I'm just going to turn 180 degrees. And I've got a few more stems still left to put in. And with a few tweaks, I'm starting to see a circular shape form. So now I've taken a few of my shorter offcuts of the stem, and I'm starting to place them round the outer edge to give a bit more interest. Do you remember when we started to put the bouquet together, it looks quite green and then flowers just at the top? If you're using something lower down, it breaks up that line. So I've got a few more gerberas left to put in, and I'll be finished. And now what you can do at this stage is you may choose to tie off. So tie at the point where your hand is holding the design usually. If you don't want to tie, we can just simply place it into our vase. So before I place it into the vase, I just want to check that all of these shorter stems have got a nice clean cut on them, but also all of the main stems in the bouquet need to be cut in a certain way. They need to be cut at a 45-degree angle, and the reason for this is because we want the water to go quite quickly up into the stem so that the flower heads are very strong and they remain strong throughout hopefully a week that you will get out of the flowers. So we're going to cut at a very sharp angle. Now you can use multi-purpose scissors for this, or secateurs if you want to. These Floristry scissors are really good because they give you a nice sharp cut. And ultimately we want all the stems to be the same length really, and the way I do that, a little trick, is to just hold them down a bit lower so you can see if they're in line or not, and then you can judge to make a strong line as you possibly can with them. The reason for this is that they sit nicely on the base of the vase. I'm just going to use this green vase, I think, just to show you first. I like to measure where I think the stems are going to sit at the bottom of the vase, and then once I release my hands, they'll start to, the flowers will start to splay out and fill the vase. Okay. So you might find at this stage that you haven't got much control, and the flowers, all your hard work is gone to waste a little bit. You have lost it, but I wouldn't lose hope. So you can either change your vase or be happy that it's got a nice amount of space within your design. I think this vase would look great on a coffee table, so something quite low down so that you can see the flowers. It's such a waste if this is up high, because you really don't appreciate the flower stems. You can also use a smaller necked vase, which will help you to achieve a more compact design. So you can see that's similar to how the bouquet came to us from the supermarket. So ultimately that is 2 ways of doing your flower arrangement, and don't be worried about your vase. So you can choose any type of vase that you've got at home. It can be a very short vase, and you may want to take one of the chrysanthemums out of your design, tweak it a little bit so you can still see a nice circular shape, and then use one chrysanthemum, for example, and I like to put it on my bedside table or in the bathroom or somewhere like that. So you can use the same spiraling technique, and these are nice, still nice long stems of cuts, and you can begin again. So a few to begin with, starting to angle your stems in one direction, turning if you need to, and checking for any gaps, and then you've got a beautiful, dainty, small design just from one chrysanthemum stem. Cutting the stems at an angle again. You may wish to bring your tying point for your spiral right up high, and maybe even use a tea light holder. You can really take the stems down as low as you need to for each and every design that you want to do. So have an experiment the next time you go to the supermarket, and make sure your stems are spiraled, so getting a nice angle, and hold them in your hand and just have a tweak about and enjoy arranging them, and then maybe do a little extra smaller design as well. Okay? Hope you enjoyed the video, and that's the end.